Well, hello and welcome to Understand Men Now. I'm Jonathan Astley of jonathanastley.com, and I'm so excited to be doing this live stream for you today. Our topic, the 5 simple ways a man can be emotionally attracted to you without your looks, without it about being looks. Now, really quickly, if you're brand new to my YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if any time during this video the content resonates with you, please hit that like button so I can be seen in the YouTube algorithms. Also, my coaching style is what I call heart-centered radical honesty. It's direct, a little tough love, and a lot of heart. And occasionally I use expletives to enhance a sentence. So if an F-bomb or two isn't your cup of tea, I suggest logging off right now. Also, these are merely my perceptions, my opinions. This is my take on dating, mating, relating. By no means do I suggest that this is the truth. You have to decide the truth for yourself. My hope is I just open up your consciousness at a way of looking at things in a different way, maybe my warped way. All right, let's talk about those 5 simple ways. Wait, what's it say again? 5 simple ways to attract him emotionally without using your looks. All right, let's be real for a second. Looks is a big part of the dating, mating, and relating process, and especially now when we're meeting total strangers these days. And the reality is the vast majority of people who are going out on first dates are with people or strangers. And what I mean to say, it's not people that you grew up with. It's not people you went to school with. It's not people you went to work with. In other words, you lack a sense of familiarity. You lack a sense of safety. You lack a sense of even, again, knowing who they are because they're total strangers. So what's the first thing that we experience in the dating process is looks. And it has been said that men are visual creatures, although I will say women are just as visual creatures as men. Women have their own criteria when it comes to looks as men do. And yet, there's more to a relationship than just looks. I think we can all agree with this. One of the challenges with midlife dating is that as we age, our childhood wounds and traumas and adult traumas start to surface in our lives, and it makes a human being have more issues with respects to their personality. And so we've now even hyper-focused on the importance of looks. And certainly when you're in the dating app world, think of how many times you see people you're not attracted to. And then pretty soon you've swiped and you swiped, and there's nobody you're attracted to. And then all of a sudden you're thinking, oh my gosh, there's no one good looking out there for me to date. And this is true for men and women alike. And yet people are meeting all the time. And so I will agree that men, as I said earlier, are visual creatures because to some degree, we need the visualization to get our equipment up, some equipment is like this and some equipment is like this, but that looks piece is a big part of it. And yet also as men age, I often say, I'm looking for a heart on to go with my hard on. Let me repeat that. I'm looking for a heart on to go with my heart on, okay? So I want to lean into, because once we get past that initial stage of chemistry, and if you're not familiar with my relationship iceberg, I'm going to put this up on the screen, and this centers around, above the waterline is the little tip of the iceberg, which says chemistry, okay? Here, let me fix that. Okay, and above the waterline is attraction. But below the waterline is compatibility, and you can see the importance of compatibility represents shared values, blendable lifestyles, and emotional maturity. And as you start to check the boxes, the waterline of attraction begins to drop. And so when you've checked off all the boxes, men or women alike, you become more and more attracted to a person. So, and men, as we age, we need that connection as well. Certainly those men that are seeking partnership relationships, certainly those men that want to go beyond the surface of a relationship. They're actually seeking an emotionally connected relationship because, quite frankly, the whole point of being in a relationship is to experience intimacy. And intimacy, the way I was taught, was into me you see. In other words, you really get to know the richness of another person. So I'm going to share with you 5 simple ways to get to that place. And my hope is that by sharing this content, you look at men, and hopefully the men are watching this look at women in a different perspective. And let me just say, what I'm about to share is interchangeable for each gender, okay? So I'm going to put on my trusty glasses, and we're going to talk about the 5 simple ways to attract them emotionally without using your looks. All right, number 1, and this is really an important one, is you're fun to be around. You're both fun to be around. And I think one of the ways this starts off, especially in the early stage of dating, is when 2 people share a lot of mutual interest. In other words, there's this sense of familiarity when you share mutual interests. So for example, I was recently talking to a woman who's in the personal development realm. She's also in the wellness industry, if you will. And it was great, like we could talk about the same books that we read and the same authors we like and the same podcasts we listen to and the same YouTube videos we watched. And because of that, that felt rather fun. That felt very safe. That felt very familiar. And so when 2 people share a lot of the same interests, things that they're genuinely passionate with, then it creates that sense of fun. Because when we actually connect with someone who likes the same things as we like, and they get off on the same things we like, that feels a sense of fun. Now, I'm not here to suggest that you can't do things that are fun, whether it's hiking or biking or doing things that are fun. I'm talking particularly in this case where you share a lot of the same interest. It might be music. It might be sports. I know a lot of women are into sports, and for those men that are into sports, that's a great way to connect at that fun-based level, especially those things that you're passionate about. So you're fun to be with because you share a lot of the same mutual interests. It's interesting. I've heard over the years that opposites attract, but I think as we get into midlife, it's more important to be in alignment with each other, not to suggest that you have to be identical to one another, but the more aligned you are with each other, the safer it feels, certainly in the beginning stages, and you have something to carry you forward into those later years in your life. So you're fun to be with because you share the same interests. Okay, number 2, this is hugely important. This might be the most important one of all. You're on the same page. You're on the same page. And what I mean by on the same page, when it comes to a relationship, you both are seeking the same thing. This is why I'm such a big proponent for women. Excuse me, I just had to take a drink. For women to express their standards very early on in the dating process, because your standards set the stage to see if you're actually compatible with one another. And when you are on the same page, it takes the pressure off of the expectation of a relationship. Now, it fascinates me how many women email me on a regular basis. Jonathan, when should I talk about exclusivity? We've been dating for 6 months. We have regular sex together. When is the time to talk about exclusivity? Well, I'm like, that conversation should have happened before the penis ever went inside the vagina. Like, it amazes me how many women will choose relationships with men without ever discussing what their standards are. Now, I oftentimes share with everybody my standard to give you an example of what I'm talking about. So for those who know me know, I'm seeking a relationship where we spend 3 or 4 days and nights a week together, doing shared activities, hobbies, mutual interests, spending time with family and friends, traveling together, teamwork, building skills, both in our personal and professional life. Did I mention traveling? Intimacy, both emotional and physical intimacy that leads to either getting married or living together. That's my standard. So if somebody can't meet that standard, for the most part, that's not someone I would explore a relationship with. And I set the stage very early on. And my invitation for you all is to establish what your standard is. Now, I got to tell you, as a coach, I talk to so many women who say, I know what I want. 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 Well, 2 things I've learned. A, you never ask for what you want in the early stages of dating. But B, you often think about what you want in the clouds. And I say this because I've had women go through my private coaching program say the same thing. Jonathan, I had no idea. I didn't know what I want, but I thought I did. In fact, if you need help with that, check out the link below to a free discovery call to see if working with a coach is right for you. Because that's my area of expertise, to help you get crystal clear on what you want so you can express your standard early on. And I want to encourage you all to say the following words. To see if we're on the same page, this is what I'm seeking. And I invite you to share with me what you're seeking. In other words, what does commitment look like for you? What does a relationship look like for you? Because not everybody wants a full partnership kind of relationship the way I want. In fact, the vast majority of people, men and women alike these days, are quite satisfied with a casual relationship. I'm just here to say is this. My coaching tends to be more centered for those who seek something more than casual, and yet casual is the predominant relationships today. The problem with casual relationships, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more, is that you can get hooked to a guy and not be on the same page. So it's super important that you're on the same page, okay? Number 3, you compliment him. You compliment him. And in particular, you compliment him about something that you respect about him. Let me repeat that. You compliment him on something you respect about him. A couple years back, I remember I was on a date with a woman, and she asked me what prompted you to become a dating and relationship coach. And I shared my story. And she said, wow, that is so awesome. I really commend you for the bravery of going out and pursuing your passion. I really commend you. It's very attractive that you did that. And in that moment, the Leo in me, puffed my chest, and I felt very excited and proud because she actually honored something that's really important to me. So she learned about who I was, something that I respect within myself, or something she respected within me, and then she complimented me for it. And men are thirsty for compliments, believe it or not. As much as men kind of shun compliments away, the reality is well, prior to the pandemic, women got complimented all the time. Oh my God, such beautiful shoes. Oh my God, where'd you get that dress? Oh, your hair looks fantastic. Women probably get 10 or 15 compliments a day, and men get about this many compliments in a day. 0 compliments. This is why I encourage you to continually, because men need their mane stroked as well. I'm a Leo, so I talk about it in that fashion, but men need they need their ego stroked a little bit. And a great way to do that is with a compliment in something that you respect about him. And the example I gave you was if it was with me. Okay, number 4. Oh, this is a great one. You ask his advice on something. Ask his advice on something. A great way to really connect on an emotional level with a man is when you seek his advice. And I've shared this story before, but I'm going to share it again. I was on a second date with a woman, and I actually I went to go pick her up at her house because we were going somewhere near where she lived, and she invited me into her home. And as we were walking around, she's showing me her home, beautiful home, by the way. She was redoing her kitchen, and there were some kitchen tiles there, 3 different types of kitchen tiles. And she said, Jonathan, I'd really like to get your opinion. Which one of these tiles do you think fits best for my home? Which one of these tiles fits best for my home? And I was looking at it, and I really, at first I was like, well, I had to be really serious about it because I could tell she was genuinely serious about my advice, and I wanted to take it seriously. I could have been a little bit of a smart ass because I do have a tendency to do that. But I evaluated it, and I gave her my opinion. After I left her that evening, I thought to myself, wow, I really appreciated that she asked my advice. And the one thing men genuinely desire is to be wanted in a way. And certainly when someone asks for advice, that demonstrates a level of respect. And I'll never forget, Dr. Pat Allen once said that men feel cherished when they're respected, and women feel respected when they're cherished. So let me come back to the men piece. When you ask our advice, you're demonstrating a level of respect, and we feel a bit cherished in that moment. So I encourage you to ask advice on a regular basis, not on an incessant basis, but certainly that makes us feel good. And I'm sure that makes you feel good as well. Like I said before, these are interchangeable to men and women. And number five, what did I say here? Oh, you initiate social activities to spend time together. You initiate social activities to spend time together. Now, why this is so critically important is that I want to share a story of a friend of mine. And he began dating a woman. And by the way, my friend tended to be a little bit more emotionally closed off than most guys. And he dated a woman, and one of their activities they did every weekend is they go hiking for 3 or 4 hours, both Saturday and Sundays in many cases. And during that time, they'd be talking to one another. They're sharing their week. They share their experiences with one another, talked about the event themselves. And that's a great way to bond with someone. Social activities, hobbies, mutual interests. This is how men genuinely bond with women. It is through the doing of activities that we bond versus being on the phone all the time. Most men, I'm going to tell you something. I can remember so many different activities I've done with partners in my lifetime. I can't remember one telephone call I've ever had with a previous partner. I have no memory whatsoever. We don't bond through the telephone. This is why many of you who choose long distance relationships or relationships in the beginning where you're not meeting each other right away, while some men might treat you as their therapist over a telephone, there's plenty of men that seek female energy to be their therapist. Men do not bond through the phone. We bond through social activities, hobbies, mutual interest. It is doing things together. So as in the case of my friend, while he wasn't a hiker before they met, boy, I mean, they were together 4 years and they hiked every weekend practically. And by the way, the only reason why that relationship didn't work out, like many, not everybody is suited for one another, but certainly he felt very connected and bonded with her through those social activities, hobbies, and mutual interests. So just to remember these 5 simple ways for a man to be emotionally connected and bonded with you, besides your looks. Hey, you're fun to be with because you share many similar interests with one another. Number 2, you're on the same page. It takes the pressure off of where's this relationship going. Number 3, you compliment him on something you respect about him. Number 4, what was number 4? You ask him his advice on some things. Ask men for advice. That allows them to be in their hero mode with you. And number 5, you initiate social activities, things that you guys can do together. And maybe he's initiate them as well. But I certainly invite you to initiate social activities, hobbies, and mutual interests versus spending time on the phone. And by the way, those social activities, hobbies, mutual interests could be walking together, could be hiking together, could be playing tennis together, could be pickleball. A lot of people in the over 50 category are doing pickleball together. It could be talking about sports or something. It's just, going to a sporting event or going to a concert. Do things together because that's how we bond with you. Does that sink in? Does that resonate with you? I hope it does. In fact, if it does, hit that like button right now to let me know that this has sunk it in. All right. We're now into the best part. I hope you got value out of that piece. Now we're going to go into the Q&A. Now, so for those who know me, know my Q&A works like this. You can either purchase a super sticker or super chat. Super sticker or super chat is in the, oh, by the way, this is only for those that are actually on the live stream right now. If you're listening to the audio recording, you won't be able to see the live chat box and you won't be able to purchase a super sticker or super chat. But if you do, all the monies go to a scholarship fund in the name of my son, Connor Asley. Those who know me know my son, Connor, there's a picture of him right there, passed away a few years ago, and I created a scholarship fund to defray the cost of personal development for those that are seeking help. In fact, we've collected over $1,700 so far in super stickers and super chats, and we just donated $1,000 to the Hoffman process. This is the letter they sent me thanking me for that. So I want to thank you all for those contributions for the super stickers. And also, if you post the word question and write your question thereafter, I can find it easier in the chat box and I'll answer your questions. In fact, a question did come in while earlier, and I wanted to share that with everybody now. So this is our first question. Says, Jonathan, can you talk more about casual relationships? Can you talk more about casual relationships? I'm glad this question came up, and it centers around something. It centers around what I'm noticing quite a bit more is the proliferation of casual relationships. And why this is such an important topic to talk about right now is because I am witnessing more and more women who seek casual relationships. In fact, this weekend, I met up with a woman who lives in my complex here, and we met up at the pool, and we're friends. She was my former Pilates instructor. And we were just sitting down chatting, and she was talking to me about her Hinge app and how she was actively, was dating and that sort of thing. And she shared with me something that she's doing these days. And I thought that might be some value because it really leans into the conversation of casual relationships. And what she said was she recognized that at this moment in her life, she's not really capable emotionally for a full-blown serious relationship. Let me repeat that. She's not capable for a full-blown serious relationship. So she's very upfront early on in the dating process with men to say, look, I'm here seeking a casual relationship with someone. Now, for her, what that means is she'd still like monogamy. She'd still like exclusivity, or, in other words, once she's in a relationship with someone, she's not interested in dating multiple people, and she's not interested in having sex with multiple men. But what she wants is a relationship that's a little bit more casual, without the pressure of constant communication, constant validation, constantly seeing each other. In fact, when I was sharing this with her, I said, you know what it seems like you desire? You desire what I call relationship light. Relationship light, L-I-T-E, relationship light. And while I'm a big advocate for partnership-based dating, let me reframe that. Partnership-based relationships, and to be more intentional in the dating process. And by the way, she said, well, I am very intentional. I'm just seeking something casual. And then I said to her, well, it seems like you're like a guy. And she goes, yeah, I kind of am like a guy, because what I've observed is a lot of men, all they're capable of is a casual relationship or something light. So what's the benefit of talking about this? Well, the reality is it's probably 75% of men are in the dating realm for those in midlife, which is after baby making years and before retirement. There's a good chance all they really desire is that companionship, connection, and sex, without that deeper intimacy, without that deeper desire to commingle your lives together. And in many cases, that might be a very adequate relationship for many people. In fact, it's probably for women as well as men, if we stopped with some of the rhetoric this requires being on the same page. This requires being intentional with one another. It's very difficult when a man says, I want a casual relationship, and a woman says, I'm okay with that, when she really means she wants a serious relationship. Well, then you're not really on the same page. When you're on the same page with one another, you have a greater chance of connecting with one another, and to actually, while you might not build that long-lasting, forever type of relationship, for a lot of people in midlife, they want that companionship. They want that connection. They want that sex. Maybe it's okay to just want a casual relationship. I think what's most important also, and this is the critical piece, is, and this is what I shared with her, is that you continually check in with one another to make sure you're on the same page. Because the worst thing that can happen is one person wants something more, and so one person wants something more, and the other person is where they were at. And that space in between is what I call drama, drama, drama. And oftentimes when that is like that space in between is because the woman wants more and the man's still here and she's creating drama. So I'm here to encourage, while I'm not a big proponent of casual relationships, I think there's a time and place for casual relationships that's better than a friends with benefits type of relationship, because a friends with benefits type of relationship is oftentimes a last minute booty call, whereas a casual relationship has all the makings of the companionship, connection, and sex without the emotional pressure of where's this relationship going or commingling your lives together. And I believe for many people in midlife, they should actually be probably seeking a casual relationship rather than something serious, because they're not capable of going into something serious. And this is true for men and women alike. Now, I'm only advocating this for the people who feel deprived of connection, that want connection, but they're not capable of going anything deeper. So casual relationships, I think the idea of relationship light might be a benefit for a lot of people, and you can continually check in. And what might also happen is you grow and grow together, and that casual relationship might, not always, turn into something serious, something that's long lasting, and something where you might go the distance with them. Because when you really deeply fall in love with someone, you're more apt to go the distance with them. Again, what's most important is you're on the same page with one another. So I invite you to check that in. Thank you so much for that question. I really appreciate it. All right. Our first question of the day comes from Emma. Question: what if you have a physical disability? Does this limit mutual interests? What if you have a physical disability? Does that limit mutual interest? Well, it certainly can. I would think that if a woman was, for example, in a wheelchair and she wanted to go out with a jock type who liked hiking, who liked boating, who liked, bungee jumping and all that kind of stuff, probably not a good fit with one another. Someone who has a physically active life may not be well suited for someone that has a physical disability. Now, I'm not saying it can't happen, and yet it's going to be a little bit more problematic. In fact, I'll be candid with you. I saw on a dating app this one woman, I saw her profile, and it was just like, it was all jock activities. And I basically asked her, I said, are you seeking an alpha male jock type? And she said, yeah. I go, then I'm not your type, because I'm not about to go skiing off of the 5-star diamond, the black diamond. I'm kind of not at that point in my life. So I said, you probably better, even though she reached out to me, I said, you're probably better suited with a jock. And she goes, yeah, I am. So it's also knowing who you are and where you're at in life. Now, coming back to disability. Here's the thing. I've worked with women who have had mastectomies. Not that that's a disability, but and by the way, I only mention that because they felt so ashamed they wouldn't be accepted. I've worked with many women who have gone through that and they've found a mate. I've worked with a woman who was in a wheelchair. I worked with a woman who had MS. I've worked with several women who have had MS. Ultimately, it really boils down to getting crystal clear on who you are and what you want, and then being intentional to attract those types of men in your life. So coming back full circle to the question, can a woman with a disability, find a relationship? Absolutely, it's possible. Is it going to be harder? Yeah, it's going to be harder. The reality is we are a superficial society, at least here in the United States. I can't speak for everywhere in the world, but I can certainly speak in the background I live in. We absolutely are very superficial, so it can be more problematic. And yet at the same time, you know what? There is a person out there for every one of us. It just requires putting effort to be seen by single eligible people. Sadly, today, it's this medium that we get seen at, because we're no longer, our lives as we age are out in the physical world where we're surrounded by single eligible people. So again, requires a little bit more effort on one's part. And yet, here's the thing. You might find a guy who also has a disability and you might be perfect for one another. In fact, there's probably groups where people have disabilities and they can meet one another there. I was watching a TV show called Love on the Spectrum, and these are people with Asperger's, and you know, they basically dated other people with Asperger's because they felt safer with one another. So my invitation is to explore what your disability is, and then find others maybe who share that disability as one possible way. You can certainly put yourself out there in the dating realm. And again, I would be forthright, because some people who are jock types are probably better suited with someone who's a jock type. Thank you so much for that question. I really appreciate it, Emma, and I wish you much success with that. All right. Kim says, have you ever coached someone with PTSD? Yes, I have. I have coached people with PTSD. Now, I'm no expert by that, you know, within the realm of understanding what they've experienced. Although I do believe most human beings have suffered some sort of micro PTSD, or there's another term of it. I think it doesn't have to be I think there could be minor versions of PTSD as well as big versions of PTSD. There's a name for it, but it just escapes me at the moment. Yes, I have worked. What's most important, again, in discussing that, is to be aware. I think what's most important is to be aware, and to be aware of how you become triggered by your PTSD, and know this ahead of time. I want you to imagine you're walking down a street and there's a deep hole in the sidewalk. That sidewalk is your triggers. To be aware of it versus falling in and going, I'm lost and I'm hopeless and it's not my fault I fell in. Well, a lot of people suffer from victim consciousness, but if someone is aware that they have PTSD and they know what triggers them, then certainly they can be better prepared. And that's the conversation I lean into, is if you know your triggers, then you know what to expect. So when you fall into the hole, you get out of it quickly, because you know you were the one that fell in that hole and nobody else did that for you. So coming back to your question, thank you so much for asking that. I really appreciate it. Oh, here's someone says, abso-fucking-lutely, I'm disabled and handicapped and I use a wheelchair and I found a good man. Yes, thank you for sharing that, Robin. I really appreciate that. All right. Maloney says, Jonathan, Mel from South Africa. I love your videos and book references and advice. Turning 40 next month. Happy birthday to you. Yay. All right, let's see what other questions we have. Let's go swimming. Again, you can purchase a super sticker, super chat. Don't forget don't forget that goes to the Connor Asley Scholarship Fund. All right. I'm scrolling to see if there's any questions. Again, post the word question and then the question thereafter. It helps me find it. Someone says, casual dating fucks up everything, including yourself, because you're not aligned and on the same page on your journeys. Robin, that is only true when one person wants casual and the other person doesn't. If two people want casual, they're on the same page, then I don't think it fucks it up. Again, unless someone wants more. Okay. All right. Nick says, what if I praise him or compliment him, yet he never does that for me? Doesn't that mean he doesn't care either way about me? That's a good question, Nick. So, you know, there are a lot of men who struggle communicating their thoughts and their feelings, and there are a lot of men who are actually very devoid of being complimentary, of leaning into the conversation of a relationship. I think the reality is as human beings, you know, the fact is we need we certainly want to feel a sense of validation from our partner. We want to feel a sense of of camaraderie with our partner. We want to feel a sense of compatibility. So people that oftentimes are devoid of sharing their feelings probably lack a sense of self-love. And if you're not familiar with my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? By the way, there's a link below to get all my recommended books. I highly recommend reading this book for yourself. But also, I suggest them reading this book because there's probably something blocking this man that makes it difficult for him to compliment you. There was a trigger or wound in his life. Maybe he was in a marriage that he was very loving to his partner, and then now that shut him down. That's a form of PTSD. A lot of trauma happens after divorce, so there could be some reasons there. But ultimately, I do believe I think a healthy relationship does offer some validation to one another. And by the way, compliments are a great thing. We need that to, kind of, spark things up. So one of the things that I've learned is the 4 A's to a relationship, the 4 A's to a relationship. This is like the multivitamin. It's attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance. Let me repeat that. Attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance. So giving your undivided attention, okay? Affection, touching your partner. Appreciation, which is a level of complimenting your partner. And lastly, accepting them for who they are. Now, in this case, he might want to just be accepted for not being a person that compliments you. And you have to decide if that really works for you. I'm in favor of people complimenting each other, and I would make more requests for that when it's genuine and sincere. But if he's not capable of doing that, then I invite you to decide if this is really the right relationship for you. And the fact that he does it for you, you do it for him, you said. My hope is it goes both ways. Nick, thank you so much for that question. I really appreciate it. All right, let's go swimming. Do you have a question? Post the word question. Again, post the word question, the question thereafter. It makes it easier for me to find, or purchase a super sticker, super chat. Question. Edlin, I don't know, Miss Gonzalez. Question, have you ever chased a girl that cut off contact with you after bonding with her? Have you ever chased a girl that cut off contact with you after bonding with her? Be honest. I'm trying to think. So I've certainly been needy in my lifetime, and I have chased women who weren't that into me. And in a few cases, I was able to win them over. What I found in those few cases, not that they cut me off, but the fact that they weren't into me very early on, even though they began a relationship with me, something was missing. And I think the fact that they cut me off early on was a really good indication that we were probably misaligned with one another. So in retrospect, I look back at any time I've chased a woman, and every single time I've chased a woman, it's never, ever, ever worked long term. It's temporarily worked for the short term. But for whatever reason, I do believe when we reject someone right from the get-go, there's actually a good reason for it. When we have resistance for someone, there's a good reason for it. And I think from a spiritual perspective, it's because they weren't the right person for you. So men are two things. First off, I want to drink some. By the way, my coffee mug says, let that shit go. And you might notice I'm wearing a linen shirt today. But men can operate from a place of chasing a woman because it's a competitive thing for them. Men can be highly competitive. So the chase is the competition to hook you temporarily so they can get that need of getting you early on, and then they dismiss you. This is why men who come on strong and then disappear, it's because oftentimes they were hooked on the chase. This is why, ladies, I know you've been indoctrinated that men love the hunt, men love the chase. Most of the time, the hunt and chase is merely to temporarily conquer you. It doesn't necessarily mean wanting to be in a full-blown relationship with you. Then there are men who are needy, like I was very needy in the past because I had an anxious attachment style. And if you're not familiar with the book Attached by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller, I highly recommend reading this. I had an anxious love attachment style. So when I was rejected by a woman, I sometimes would become needy and try harder, or sometimes my penis would shrivel up and I'd disappear. But again, it only temporarily worked because I think ultimately our spirit knows who's the right person for us right from the very get-go. We just don't often listen to our spirit. Oftentimes it's our ego or our insecurity that's driving the bus. Let me repeat that. It's our ego or insecurity driving the bus and not our heart-centered space. This is why I'm such a big proponent of reading the books I recommend. In fact, I highly recommend reading Spiritual Partnership by Gary Zukav. This is a great book to tap into your spiritual side, as well as If the Buddha Dated. If the Buddha Dated. Oh my God, this is a great way to tap into your spiritual side to navigating life. And you might find that you meet a partner that's more aligned to who you are and what you want. So that's my invitation. Ms. Gonzalez, thank you so much for that question. I really appreciate it. All right, let's keep swimming. Let's keep swimming. Do we have any questions? Anna said, did you get a new ring and change fingers that you wore it on? So, because I got so fucking tired of everybody. Okay, folks, this is my right hand, and I wear this ring on this finger so I can attract a life mate in me, because many of you just jonesed on it, thinking that it's my left hand. That's my left hand, that I'm wearing my finger right now on this finger to shut you all the fuck up because it was driving me nuts. So, answer your question, that's what I did. Thank you for asking. All right. Thank you, Anna, for that question. All right. Missy Taylor writes, question. I have lots of baggage in my life. I've done a lot of inner child work and self-love and learning and healing in all relationships. When do I share my baggage without scaring someone off? When do I share my baggage without scaring someone off? Great question. All right. So here's the thing. If your baggage is active in your life today, whatever that baggage might be, then I think it's important to be transparent early on, because the worst thing that can happen, and ladies, think about this. You're dating a man. He doesn't say a word about his baggage. He romances you. He charms you. You sleep together. You start dating. And all of a sudden, he starts vomiting all of his problems. He starts vomiting all of his baggage, and he vomits all of his trauma. And it's incessantly vomiting. How attractive is it to be with someone who is living in their baggage continually? It's not very attractive. Someone who's got drama, someone who's got complaints, someone who's not healed from their past, someone who's got a contentious ex, someone who has, anybody who has chaos in their life, they don't have the foundation underneath them to build a solid relationship together. Now, in the case of what you shared, you said you've done a lot of healing to heal your baggage in your life, your trauma, your insecurities, your negative patterns, your limiting beliefs in your life. So I suspect you have a desire to share about your past with someone. Probably, and I'm going to be very blunt here. My suspicion is there might be, I'm not suggesting that this is an absolute, but there might be, excuse me, I just have to, a need inside of you to share this baggage. But if you've healed from it, is it necessary? Is it necessary? Here's my invitation for you. If it is not material to the relationship, then you can take your time sharing about that part of the past in your life. If it's not material to the relationship, if it's material, in other words, it could affect your relationship, then I'm a big proponent of discussing these sooner rather than later, because the worst thing that can happen is to be with someone who vomits their baggage after you've gotten hooked to them, after you've become attached to them. And then if this baggage is active and material in your life, if it's not active and material and it's not going to affect the relationship in the future, then really, is there any need to share it? I mean, here's the thing. I have written on my dating profile, I want to be able to talk about everything. I want to be able to, wait a minute, what does it say? I want to be able to share everything in my life, but I don't have to share everything. You don't have to share everything about your life till this point. And it's really more about building new memories with each other, to build new experiences with each other, because that has more richness than talking about the past. So again, if you've genuinely healed from your past traumas, then there's really no necessity to bring it up. I just invite you to build new memories with someone, and that's worth, at least that's my invitation for you, and I hope that helps out. So Missy, thank you so much for that question. Great question. First time I really have heard that, so thank you so much. All right. Question. I'm from Mary. She says, I'm feeling completely defeated by internet porn. I will never win. The game feels over for me. Is there some mantra I can remember to overcome this sense of doom? Wow. So I'm a little bit confused. Are you addicted to internet porn yourself? Is it that you have every single man you've ever dated is addicted to internet porn? Is that what's happening? So here's the thing. There happens to be a proliferation of internet porn. Now, here's the thing. That's partially because people aren't, humans aren't having regular sex because if you're not in a relationship and you don't have a friend with benefit and you're not having regular physical intimate with someone, porn has taken over. Now, it's not just porn, it's also the masturbation that goes with this. So two things happen. The visual effect is the porn, but also the masturbation, at least for men in particular, or even with women, is they become accustomed to their own way of pleasuring themselves. I've known a lot of women that use a vibrator and they have a very difficult time having an orgasm with a male partner or a female partner for that matter, because they've become quite addicted or accustomed to their vibrator. And it's the same with masturbation. And as men age, they practically need a gorilla grip to get themselves off. And the porn is just the stimulation. So there's two things going on. There's the physical aspect of the masturbation as well as the porn addiction. And that's certainly a huge proliferation today. This is why it's better to have relationships with one another and fuck on a regular basis and learn how to pleasure one another. But coming back to your regular question, I'm sorry you feel defeated. I understand why you might feel that way. I also believe you have set yourself up with a belief that all men are addicted to porn. I am not addicted to porn. I haven't watched porn in years, and even in the last 2 decades, I don't think I've watched but an hour's worth of porn in my life in that last decade or two, maybe 2 hours worth, maybe. So it's not a lot of time. I think some men are dependent upon porn. It makes it difficult for them to have an intimate relationship with someone. Some men are dependent upon their physical gorilla grip, as a friend of mine would say, to feel that excitement and pleasure. And it requires a rewiring, and it requires a partner to rewire. So again, I understand your frustration. You really didn't ask a question, but I will just say, I understand how you feel. But I'm also telling you, if you have a belief system that it's all men, then you will attract, you'll know. It's like if I just said right now, yellow Volkswagen Bug, and you get in the car, you'll see nothing but yellow Volkswagen Bugs. Or if I said silver Mercedes, you will see nothing but silver Mercedes. So focus on it's raining great guys that want a woman to have sex with, that don't need porn. That's my invitation for you. So thank you so much for asking that question. All right. Sammy says, fuck away, fucking yay. Exactly. All right, let's go swimming. Miss Jen says, question, if you seek this casual relationship you speak of, let's communicating monogamous and sexual relationship. When are a woman and wait, when you are a woman and want to go out on a date, it's a woman expected to pay. So I've got a video. I have a video called "Who Should Pay for a Date." I'm a big proponent of the person who makes the most money in the relationship is the predominant payer of the dating process, the person who makes the most. If two people are equally yoked, then I'm a big proponent of two people equally investing financially in the relationship. I know you're told that men are supposed to pay and men are supposed to lead, but I will tell you, most men at midlife genuinely appreciate women who make effort, and they genuinely appreciate women who pay, and we actually respect those women more. I invite you to call up 10 different men who are in their midlife, who are single, and ask them, how do you feel when a woman offers to contribute or pay on a date? And I will venture to say most all of them will say, if they're not control freak type of men, they would actually appreciate it. So in the casual relationship, I would encourage that as well. Again, it's not a man's job to pay for a date. I know you've been indoctrinated. I know it's not his job. He's not required to do that, okay? And by the way, does that mean you're required to have sex with him whenever he wants? So we have to be careful with shoulds and expectations, because that sets people up for failure, in my opinion. So coming back to that question, Miss Gina, you've got to decide that one for yourself. I'm a big proponent of two people equally investing in the relationship, but that's my way of approaching things. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. Someone wrote, personal question. Jonathan, looking good. Jonathan, looking good, Jonathan. You talk about going to concerts and sporting events. What's my favorite? The Hollywood Bowl is my favorite place to go. I happen to live in Los Angeles. I'd really like to go to SoFi Stadium. That's the new Rams headquarters. Not that I'm overly a big sporting fan, but I would like to see the new stadium. I would love to go to an amusement park. I mean, I wish this whole fucking COVID thing was over. It'd be so fun to go to Disneyland or Knott's Berry Farm or Six Flags Magic Mountain and go to an amusement park. I think that'd be a fun date to go out with someone. So those are just some of the things I like. I like concerts in the park whenever they're around, but mostly the big thing I do most of the time is Hollywood Bowl. So, Lisa, thank you so much for that question. I really appreciate it. Again, you can purchase a super sticker, super chat if you'd like. Janet says, always surprised at how much you understand about the dating relationship and lasting effects of habits, porn addiction. You are absolutely 100% correct. Baby steps away does help, maybe temporarily. Thank you so much for that kind compliment. See what I appreciate it. She's complimenting me on something she respects about me, and we love it, or at least this man loves it, and I'd like to think I'm representative of a lot of men, so thank you so much. Kim says, you're a rarity, Jonathan. Most guys I know are heavily into porn, and it shows. Well, when we're not having sex on a regular basis, for a lot of people, that is their outlet. And by the way, you women have your vibrators and you use this to get off. So keep in mind, when you get too addicted to masturbation, you're less likely to have physical sex with someone. This is why I even limit my masturbation on a regular basis. But that's just me. Kelly says, use that sex energy for a creative purpose. Find a skill to do, like gardening or whatever. Yeah, and yet we still need to get off every once in a while. So thank you, Kelly. Chloe says, can I date more than one guy? Sure. How do you feel if he's dating more than one girl? So ladies, let's talk about this. I've shot in a video. I think a video is coming out shortly, maybe tomorrow. Can you date more than one man? Here's the thing. Think about this. You're dating 3 guys. He's dating 3 ladies. When do you ever have time to date 3 people at the same time? And if he's dating 3 and then the other person's dating 3 and the other person's dating 3 or 2 or whatever, it's a clusterfuck out there. I think if 2 people are going to explore a relationship together, then spend a little time investing in each other. That's it. I'm not asking for years. I'm talking about you can take a few weeks off. By the way, The problem is when you get addicted to the dating apps, you can meet a great person and totally fuck it up because you're looking for the next swipe, looking for the next swipe or the next date because you're afraid. You don't want to get it hooked to the wrong guy. So then you have to date more people. By the way, this whole fucking circular dating or duty dating has been devised to make, for women who get attached to the wrong guy, there's this misconception that if you date multiple men, you won't get attached to the wrong guy. What happens is I'm spitting. You miss out on a great guy because you're multiple dating, because you're following stupid books like this, The Rules. Stupid fucking book, The Rules. This is the kind of shit that fucks people up. So my invitation, if two people genuinely like each other, then invest a little bit of time getting to know one another. Can't people take 3 or 4 weeks to get to, again, if you can see each other twice a week, 3 times a week, just invest in, by the way, if you can invest 100 hours getting to know someone, you'll know whether or not it means it's, again, if you're both on the same page, if you're having intentional conversation with one another, you don't need to date multiple people. Now, I'm not talking about meeting multiple people. Yes, go ahead and meet as many people as you like. When 2 people like each other and want to invest in each other, then take a little break and explore it. Doesn't mean you have to get married. It doesn't mean commitment. It doesn't mean anything. It just means you're taking a break from being, listen, I want to share a personal story. That's a picture of my son, Colin. Dorky picture there. So he recently met a woman on a dating app called Hinge about 2 months ago. And and I say woman, he's 25, she's 22. She's becoming a master's in speech pathology. My son is an entrepreneur. So they had a really great first date. And he asked her out a couple, 4 days later, 5 days later, they went out and had another great date. And then they did something again. They hung out a few days later and had another date. And I asked him, when did are you still on the dating apps? He goes, no. And I go, when did you log off of that? And he said about the 3rd date. And I go, why is that? He goes, I just didn't want the distraction. These things highly fuck us up. Ladies, understand this. This actually, multiple dating does more damage than good, especially if everybody is doing it. So I'm a big proponent of date one person at a time. And I asked Colin, is this a serious relationship? And he says, no, I'm taking it slow, which I really respect. I think he listens to a lot of my videos. Actually, he does the editing for my videos. So when you see the clip version, that's because Colin spends time editing them. And he says, look, I want to take my time getting to know her. And I have no interest in taking time to get to know someone else. And he's a young guy. He doesn't have to get married right away or anything. But I really respect the way he's approaching the process right now, because he's being genuine, he's being intentional, he's being vulnerable, authentic, and transparent, and they're really hitting it off. And I'm so happy for him. I'm proud Papa. I'm so happy for him. She looks like, I'm not going to spoil it. She looks like a former figure skater that I used to have a crush on years back. But she seems like a really sweet gal, and I'm really happy for him. And you know what? He's not multiple dating. And he's met someone great. And I hope she's not multiple dating, because I know my son is a great guy. So that's my perception on that. Take it for what it's worth. Again, this isn't the truth. This is just the world according to Jonathan, the way I see things. And I do a lot of conversations with people. So trust me, I suggest taking this advice. All right. Thank you so much for that question. Really appreciate it. All right. Chloe says, my date is very sexual. What should I do when he starts sexting? Well, you said my date, so I'm a little confused. Folks, let's be clear. If you're in a relationship with someone, you're in a relationship with someone. If you're dating someone, how long have you been dating? You've been dating 6 months? Yeah, someone, and by the way, I'm assuming that there's distance involved, because that's why the sexting. So sexting is a very common thing. If one person's into it and one person isn't, that means you're not on the same page. I would just express that that's not my thing. And you might find out that you're not right for each other, or you might find out that you can spend more face-to-face time. I'm not a big proponent. I'm a big proponent of flirting with one another. I'm just not a big proponent of sexting, because I would much rather have a vagina. I would rather have my penis inside of a vagina than jacking off and splattering all over my phone. But that's just me. So I don't really think I answer your question, but that's my impression of it. Thank you so much. All right. Ocean Way says, Jonathan, I'm so disillusioned by dating. I've unsubscribed from your channel, but the algorithm makes you show up. I can't resist watching because you're hilarious. So right on. Thank you so much. I appreciate that compliment. Thank you so much. All right, Miss Gina says, can you ask a man to take time off the dating app so you all can get to know each other? That's a good question. I certainly would be open to making a request. People don't like to be told what to do, but you can make a request and say, hey, I'm planning on taking myself off the dating apps. If we're going to explore a relationship together, and if you want your penis inside my vagina, then I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. In fact, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to purchase 2 copies of this book called 8 Dates by Drs. John and Julie Gottman. And I'm going to say, if you want to fuck me, we're going to read this book together to see if we're on the same page with one another. Folks, we don't have time to fuck around at midlife. You know what? Get busy living or get busy dying. The days in front of us are much shorter than those behind us. For those, well, actually, I'm right. No, I'm pretty sure the days in front of me are shorter than the days behind me based on my age. So with that said, let's not fuck around. Let's be more intentional. Let's find out if we're on the same page with one another. Because when you're on the same page, it takes the pressure off. This is why I recommend being intentional and having more serious conversation. But Jonathan, aren't I supposed to lean back in my feminine energy and let the man claim me? Like, what fucking world does that really happen in? Yes, for that small percentage of the people that like the movie, Pride and Prejudice, that might work. But the reality is sitting back and waiting for men to do shit doesn't work. It's time to be intentional. By the way, you are in charge of your relationship destiny. You do not allow a man to be in charge of your relationship destiny. If you're not familiar with my 7 ways women give their power away, one of the primary ways women give their power away is expecting the man to lead the process. Let me tell you something. Men are terrible at the dating process, which is why you have to take charge of your relationship destiny. And that includes speaking up. Coming back to my book, What the Heck is Self-Love Anyway? Chapter 1, Speak Your Truth. Here it is. What's it say? Speak your truth. Do it with kindness. And later in the book, chapter 9, if it's sincere and from the heart, you can't say the wrong thing to the right guy. So I'm here to say, make a request. If he gets turned off, he's probably not your guy. But that's just my way of looking at things. Thank you so much for that question. I really appreciate it. All right. Michelle says, oh my God, this chat session feels like I'm having a conversation with brother. His authentic raw language makes me laugh. By the way, I've always said, ladies, I'm your big brother. If I could be there for you on a first date, I'd have the shotgun ready. I'd be pointing at the guy's face and I'd be saying, what's your intentions with my little sister? What's your intentions with my little sister? I want you to become, I can't be there to be there for you as your big brother. So I want you to be in charge of your life because you can't depend on a man to be in charge of your destiny. You should be in charge of it yourself. And if you need some support on that, check out the link to a free discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. Check out my group called Midlife Love Mastery. And let's go from there. Hey, listen, have I provided value today? If I have, please purchase a super sticker, super chat to let me know that I'm appreciated. That would really help out. And again, for the scholarship fund, I'm ready to give some money to the Insight Seminar. So please purchase the super sticker, super chat before we wrap up in the next minute or two. And again, that goes to the Connor Asley Scholarship Fund to defray the cost of personal development for those in need. All right, we're going to take one last question and we're going to wrap up for the day. Bum, bum, bum. Okay, question. Monique says, when do I tell someone I don't drive and would need a pickup? Will this hinder my chances? This actually happened to me once. So I actually dated a woman who didn't drive. She grew up in New York and she didn't drive. Now, when we met, we lived about 40 miles away from one another. So what we did was our first date, I went out to visit her, and then we began seeing each other. And she actually would take a bus halfway. I would pick her up halfway, bring her to my place. And then because she was into, taking the bus. I will tell you it was problematic, but she told me that actually very early on. She said she had a little bit of a fear of driving. She had grew up in New York and didn't need to drive, so she had a phobia around driving. That is a rare thing I've noticed, but it does happen. So, but I would speak up rather early on. She did it. It didn't block me from seeing her. But I would think with the distance, it was a fucking pain in the ass and I couldn't stand it. That wasn't the reason why we ended it. We were just misaligned. But ultimately, it's better if you're not driving, then it's better to date someone who lives 5 minutes away or 10 minutes away or within 30 minutes because it is problematic. That's my invitation for you. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Also, I want to thank Lisa for the super sticker of $4.99. I also want to thank Maggie for the super sticker of $7.99. This all goes to the Connor Asley Scholarship Fund. Let's build that fund up. We're at $1,700, $1,750. I'd like to be able to give thousands of dollars away before the end of the year. So all of your support really helps out. Oh, and Ocean Way just wrote, I've resubscribed. You're addictive. That's the best compliment of the day, and that's a great way to wrap up for today, so thank you so much. Folks, I just want to remind you those 5 simple ways to attract them emotionally without your looks. Be fun to be with. This happens when you tend to share the same mutual interest. Make sure you're on the same page. This takes the pressure off of the relationship. Compliment him on something you respect about him. Ask advice on something. And lastly, initiate social activities to spend time together, which develops that friendship piece, which is the critical piece for a long-term, lasting, loving relationship. I want to thank everyone who is on tonight. And again, I just want to tell you from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate everything. Please share this video with your friends. Please like this video after it wraps up or come back and like it so it can be seen in the YouTube algorithms. And I'm going to sign off today as I always do. First off, giving myself a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug of self-love. I'm going to reach into the camera and give you a hug of love if that's okay. I'm going to ask you to turn to someone, a pet, a teddy bear, or pillow, and give it or them a hug of love. Because hugs are a great source of love. And let's face it, we could all use more love in our lives. Thanks a bunch. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.